What's going on YouTube? Now, as you can see, or from some of the people who may have watched my videos in the past, we have kind of rebranded the YouTube channel, just slightly, just a little bit. We went from Lord Random to Jules. Now, the reason for that kind of has to do with me just wanting to change the content that I'm putting out. Don't get me wrong, I still like playing video games, every now and then, but one thing I will say is I don't like playing them as much as I used to. I have to really want to play something in order to play it, and at least for where I am currently, like mentally, um, I want to talk more. I mean, I've always been a big talker, but I don't know. I just feel like for me personally, and for the people who do tune in to watch the channel, I feel as though maybe my speech, what I have to talk about, could maybe be a little more beneficial or possibly even entertaining, depending on who's watching or who may be interested. Um, More so than my gameplay. Uh, I feel like you also get to see a more authentic me when I speak or talk to you guys rather than playing the game. And honestly, today I kind of just wanted to have a little heart to heart with the people who tune in, um, just about life as a whole. Now, I finished school, or high school, I should say, not too long ago. I want to say it was roughly probably a couple months ago. I think sometime in June. Uh, it was cool. It was good. I mean, I know what I want to do with my life and all that great stuff, but I'm not gonna lie. Before I finished school, for a while, I was unsure, unsure of where I was headed, unsure of what I wanted to do, and I think simply because of that, it really made me worry. It made me second guess myself. Um, I was concerned that I was going to get complacent and become stagnant, that I wasn't going to try to make any changes that are worthwhile or, really do anything to better myself. And when I say better myself, I'm not just referring to things that I might already do, like work out or go to the gym or things like that, but uh, career wise. Because it's like, while you're going through the process of school, or, you have your family members who may ask you, like, hey, so what do you plan on doing with your life after school? And, you might toss out some generic subject or major that you may have had in mind, like, oh, I want to, or even if it's, not like let's say it's a trade, like, even if it's a trade, like, oh, I'm going to be a plumber, or I'm going to do HVAC, or, I want to do electrical work, Um, Even when it comes to things like that, like, yes, you're like, yeah, I want to do that, but a lot of the times, and I've come to realize it and notice it myself, you're simply throwing that out there because you feel like you have to tell them you have something in mind. But deep down, on like a certain level, you know that you don't really know. And I think the mixture of being unsure on top of the expectations that a lot of your family members and friends might put on you. Not saying that your friends directly put expectations on you. I mean, sometimes they do. But other times it could simply be that you feel, a certain level of expectations due to the fact that they have in mind what they would like to do. They've already thought about it. They've been thinking about it their entire time going through school. Um, and they've already kind of got that figured out. So when you factor in what your family or regard they hold you in, and then when you factor in what your friends are doing, sometimes you may get into a spot where it's like, man, what am I doing? And like I said, it could get really intimidating and get really really worrisome. Um, and a lot of people are, you know, you included, of course, that you're not exempt from this, but a lot of people have a well, people in general, everyone has potential. Everyone has potential. I would like to say that, but I think one of the worst things you can do is not capitalizing on that potential. Not because you are lazy. That is not that's most of the time that's not even why. It's because, at least for me, well, I mean, luckily I know what I want to do now. I'll get into that later, but um, for me, at a certain point, it was not that I wasn't sure of what I was capable of, or I wasn't aware of the potential that I had, but it was more so about figuring out where that potential lies in. And I apologize if I'm pausing a lot when I speak, but I'm just taking the time to really gather my thoughts because, especially when I was younger, I had a tendency for stuttering a lot, and I'm not afraid to admit that. But the reason why it was like that is because, you know, um, my brain's like constantly racing. I'm constantly forming a new thought, new sentence. Something's popping up in my mind, and sometimes my mouth would be moving faster than my brain could process. So then I'm going, sounding like Courage the Cowardly Dog off of, one of the episodes where he sees something scary, or I just start blabbering, and I'm sure you guys have like a friend or two who you'd catch talking, and then they're like went, and then you start getting on their ass because they start stuttering, and then they just got to take a second to pause because of what happened. So it's like I wanted to stop doing that. So uh, I've been working on getting that under control. Now, see, look, I got a little sidetracked talking about that when that has nothing to do with the essential topic of the video. But see, I mean, that's what you guys are here for, all right? I'm not going off of like some type of script or, you know, uh, some pre-made, text that I got up on my screen. All of this is just coming off the top of my head. When I speak to you guys, I want it to feel like you're having a conversation with a friend, or someone you can come to and just speak with. And honestly, I would actually be down for that. Like in the comment sections, if you guys ever wanted to just talk, just have a one-on-one conversation, like a heart-to-heart. Feel free to put like your like if you have Discord or something. Feel free to put your info in the comment section, and I would love to talk to some of you guys and have conversations with some of you, because I'm quite sure you guys have uh, interesting stories to tell, or everyone comes from a different background, and I just find it different how we all go through life, but we all see it in different lenses based off of our experiences. So yes, I would actually love to hear what you guys have to say. So yeah, if you want to or you feel comfortable doing so, yeah, 100%. Feel free to leave your info down in the comment section, and then I'll send you a friend request, or message you back. But back to what we were talking about. I just feel as though it's really, really easy to let all of that worry, and honestly, that worry is also pretty bad too, because that can also keep you stagnant in a way, because you get so caught up on that fear of not knowing what you want to do and trying to overcome that fear, that you end up staying stuck. And it's like because of that fear, clouding your mind, clouding your judgment, it's like even though it's right in front of you, you don't realize that the answer to that fear is to figure out what you want to do, to take the time to think about it. Like I will say this. Now, throughout school, like, yeah, I got good grades. Sometimes better than others. I had my moments where I may have slacked off, or I'll say this: it's not that I couldn't do the work, but it was more so about me not applying myself. Um, for example, like I had a really bad habit of, one marking period, or I'll be doing good, or like, oh, there, people will be like, oh yeah, your grades are slipping, and then I'll get on it, right? Bring my grades up, and then next minute, they're slipping again because I got comfortable with like, oh, well, I'm doing good now. I can take it easy, and I guess I just had the wrong mindset. Like if I could go back and if I could redo um, school, I believe I would have an entirely different approach, and my mindset would be completely different. Like I would have put more time and put more effort into what I was doing. Because one message I want to leave for all of the younger children or any kids that stumble across this video is, well, I mean, I'm not old, I'm only 18, but at the same time, kids, please listen to your parents, listen to your older siblings, listen to grandma, listen to pop pop. You know, they are not lying to you when they tell you school is important. It may not seem like it. I know, trust me. I just I just went through it myself. It may not seem important, but it is. You have much to learn from school. And even then, life is a constant learning experience. You will be learning until you are 95 and you can't walk straight without a wheelchair or some type of mobility scooter. I promise you, you're always going to be learning something. Absorb as much information as you possibly can. It will do nothing but make you a better person, a more, competent person. But besides being book smart, one of the best things that you can do is taking the time to understand yourself. That is one of the most important things you can do. And I'll give you a little backstory on that. Like, recently I went through some stuff that, I don't think a lot of people would kind of enjoy going through. I wouldn't say it was anything crazy, but, I went through some stuff, um, and it just really changed my perspective on how I looked at a lot of things. It's kind of like, how sometimes you may go through something uncomfortable or something that's eye opening. It's like, for example, let's say, actually, no, I can use myself as an example. The example I'll give you was a couple years back. I want to say, was it 20, 25? 8 years ago. Yes, 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I believe I was turning 11 at the time. Now, prior to this, I had a bad habit of not putting my seatbelt on. And because I didn't, so with that being the case, or with that being said, I should say, my birthday comes around. And me and my mother were going to pick up some buddies who I knew at school. And we were going to go to a hotel, have a little pizza party, ice cream, blah blah blah, typical kid stuff. And on the way there, mind you, I didn't have my seatbelt on, and we were driving. It was just a typical day, like you wouldn't really expect anything to happen, and it all happened like this, like just like that, and we got into a car accident. Now, the reason why I say it happened within like a snap of a finger is because one moment I'm sitting there. Now, mind you, I'm not on the far left side or like the far right. I'm sitting directly in the middle, and I did not have my seatbelt on. My mother was driving, and she took a split second to turn around. Just I like literally she hit just like that. She's like, "Son, are you okay?" And as soon as that happened, I blacked out. When I come to, the car was smoking. Uh, my leg was pinched in between the right seat and like the right hand passenger seat up front next to where the driver is, and the right seat in the back. I permanently lost feeling in my right knee, I think I got banged up pretty bad during the accident. I had a severe laceration in the lower part of my mouth. Like, if you can see where I'm popping my tongue down into, like here, there was a huge hole, and it took a while for it to heal on its own, and I suffered a huge brain bleed. The only thing that stopped me from dying and flying through the front window of the car, and I know some people are gonna be laughing about that because it's funny and sad at the same time. But the only thing that prevented that from happening was the simple fact that my mother put her arm in front of the gap in between. You know where the armrest is inside the vehicle, and she put her arm like right in front of that space, and it blocked my body from going forward. I would have died that day. People say that, people are always recommending that you do something the smart way, you do something the right way, that way you don't have to learn the hard way. But I will be 100% honest. If you look at it through history and if you look at the way how people as a whole handle themselves, most people only do learn the hard way. I had to go through something traumatic like that for me to truly understand the value of wearing a seatbelt. Now, yes, that is my fault for not taking proper safety precautions, 100%. But what my main point is, you know, that traumatic incident forced me to change. It made me change. Before I was careless and didn't really bother to put my seatbelt on all that much. But after that point, I forever did. Because, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, like, you think about how, wow, that really could have gone differently. I really could have died. And it's eye opening. So, there's that. Main point is, 9 times out of 10, in order to change or really experience some significant change in your life, you really do have to go through something uh, that really makes that thought stick with you. And although, yes, the accident sucked, in a way, I am glad that it happened because it really, it, like I said, it made me change. It made me realize uh, something that I was doing that was wrong. Now, back to that more recent incident. Um, I wouldn't say I was perfect. It was a relationship. Um, I made a couple mistakes. Uh, and, I know I was wrong for the way how I went about things certain times. I'm not going to try to minimize them or minimize my actions or anything like that. You know, it's just that, sometimes your emotions get the better of you. Sometimes when you get into disagreements with people, you may yell, you may argue, and, it doesn't lead to anything good. Especially when both parties don't feel like they're being heard. One of the most crucial aspects of a relationship is 100% the communication. 100%. I really do feel as though that communication is a make or break deal in a relationship. And besides just communication, what's even more important is comprehension. Understanding what you are being told, understanding what that person is communicating to you. You know, computing it, registering it, acknowledging it, and then doing your best to put it into motion. Because if we're being honest, communication is useless if there is a lack of comprehension. If it doesn't matter how much you communicate with someone, if you two do not understand each other or not try to implement what has been communicated, then that it's damn near the same thing as if you didn't talk about it at all. So yeah, communication is 100% a make or break deal. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I cared about that person a lot. I did. Um, 100%. I did. And over the period of time where we haven't been together, uh, I've been doing a lot, and I mean a lot of understanding how I am. Of just self evaluation on how I am as a person. I've come to realize that I am what some people would deem an anxiously attached person. So someone who fears things like infidelity or the fear of abandonment or things like I don't know. Well, those are like the two main things, but this is typically a person who's also more affectionate and close. And the person that I was with would be categorized as an avoidant. So it was kind of, it we were like in that regard we were polar opposites. And I don't it see now that I understand that and I know this, we weren't truly incompatible. But the issue is the way how we were brought up is what caused the conflict. Because in reality, um, being, if I could put it to you like this, anxious and avoidant, the two attachment styles are like two sides of the same coin. It's like if anxious was heads, avoidant would be tails. People who are dismissively avoidant or who are avoidant have this fear of letting people in and becoming emotionally vulnerable with them, where people who are anxious have a fear of not being emotionally vulnerable and not developing a deep, meaningful bond with another person out of that fear that they may be abandoned. I never knew this about myself. I just recently found out about attachment styles. And one of the things that I also came to understand is that these things develop early in childhood as well. Typically, when it comes to anxious people, behavior like that typically stems from, you know, either you having to deal with, how could you put it? I wouldn't say parenting your parent, but kind of watching out for them and making sure that they're okay mentally. Like, let's say, I don't know, your mother's mental health was faltering. Um, Now, mind you, as a child, you need your parent or guardian because, well, you rely on them. You're dependent on them at that point because you aren't fully capable of being a self sufficient individual just yet. Now, with that being said, since you rely so much on this person, in a way, if it makes sense, in a way, in order for you to be okay, you as an individual, you have to make sure that this other person is okay. So it's like, hey, if mom is okay, if mom is healthy, if mom is happy, then, mom can do a better job of making sure that I'm okay. So, in order for me to be okay, she needs to be okay, and vice versa, in a way. So it's like when you translate that to a relationship, it's like if your partner isn't happy, especially because, like, you tend to develop a dependency on them for your happiness and your well being when you're anxiously attached. Now, I've been working on this a lot in order to not be that way anymore, and I've actually made a lot of progress. And I've worked on fixing a lot of the issues that I had. Now, it does take time, but I've been doing this over the past couple of months, and I've made a lot of progress. So I'm very proud of myself for that. But yeah, to continue what I was saying, if you translate that over to a relationship, just imagine, I don't know, it looks like something's bothering your partner, right? And you ask them, hey, what's wrong? And they're like, it's nothing. Now, one thing about me is I'm very perceptive and keen on picking up on things like body language, facial expressions, and overall tone. So it's like someone could tell me that nothing's really bothering them per se, but at the same time, it's like, in my mind, okay, you're telling me this, but your words aren't matching up with, you know, your demeanor. So, like I said, you know how if mommy's okay, I'm okay? Then what happens is like, because in my mind I'm like, well, they're telling me that they're okay, but they don't look okay. You keep pressing, and you're like, hey, are you sure you're okay? What's going on? Now, mind you, in their mind, they could genuinely be fine. They could genuinely be okay. But due to how much I not only care about this person, but sometimes if I'm quite sure if you've ever been in a relationship, you can also relate. You ever had a moment where, you know, your partner was sad or upset, so you ended up becoming sad or upset? It's kind of like that. It's like, well, how can I be happy if my partner isn't happy? So then you direct a lot of energy to making sure that they're okay because, in order for, at least in an anxiously attached person's mind, they're like, okay, well, it looks like they're going through something right now, so I want to do my best to fix it and make sure that they're happy and make sure that they're okay. Because, since we're in a relationship, in order for a relationship to be good, in order for a relationship to be healthy, they have to be okay. So in order for us, the relationship to be okay, I need to make sure that they are okay so that I can be okay and that we can both be okay and be together. So then you end up hyper fixating on them not seeming okay to the point where you keep asking them. Now over time, this can start to agitate the person, and it's not coming from a place where you're trying to irritate them, but at the same time, yeah, and like you also might try to explain that to them, but regardless, your actions are upsetting them, and I think that's one of the things that as an anxious person, in order to kind of fix that or work on that, even if it does seem as if something is bothering them, you pressing them for that information over and over again, I mean, it's not really bettering the situation. If anything, you're like in many instances, you might just end up agitating them. I can see maybe asking once or twice, but asking three, four, 5 times is unnecessary. And I know, like, you're well intentioned. You're doing it because you care and because you just want to make sure that they're okay. But sometimes you just have to know, like, okay, I've asked them twice. They said nothing is bothering them. Now, yes, it does still seem like something is on their mind, but since well, at least from this point right now, it doesn't seem like they want to talk about it all that much. Or on one hand, maybe they are okay, but in the case where there is something that's on their mind, it doesn't seem like they want to speak about it right now at this moment. So all I can do is give them their space and let them know, like, hey, I don't know if something is bothering you or not. But in the case that there is something bothering you, you know, uh, if you do want to talk about it at some point today, or later on, or when you're ready, just let me know, and I'm here for you. That's all you have to do. But when you're anxiously attached, you get so fixated on them not communicating with you and them not opening up to you that you keep pressing them and pressing them and pressing them and pressing them and pressing them. And, it gets to a point where to them it may feel as though you're suffocating them, especially to an avoidant person. Um, and, like, they don't have as much space. And now, one thing, avoidants are very independent. They value their free time, they value their space, they um, tend to be a little more reserved emotionally. They may not like expressing their emotions as much. A lot of the times they have a fear of, their emotions either being used against them, or they have a fear of, you know, uh, not being accepted or, loved for who they are. Now, I actually never covered the avoidance side of the story. when it comes to avoidance and why they are that way, uh, a lot of times in childhood, the reason why avoidance develop the way they do develop is they didn't receive that affection as much as they should have, or um, maybe they wanted that affection and love and caring from their parental figures, whether that be grandparents, parents, who just point blank period, whoever raised you. Typically, they may not get that, and in result of that, in result of those emotional needs, or those needs period not being met, it's like they develop this mindset where they're like, okay, well, I couldn't rely on mom and dad or whoever to help me or meet my needs, so the only person I can rely on is myself. And because of that, they feel as though, at the end of the day, like I said, the only person they can rely on themselves. And if they couldn't rely on their parents, what makes them think at the end of the day they're going to be able to fully trust or rely on another individual that they're in a relationship with? You know? So I think that's one of the biggest things that they struggle with. Like, it's just very difficult, and like I said, because of those some of those qualities between the two, while an avoidant values their space and are, I wouldn't say opposed to, but kind of mm, not opposed to, but since they value their space and because they still want that connection, they still want that love from the other person. I'm just yeah, let's just go with they value their space. They value their space and they also want love, but it's like, so there's more of a balance to them. I wouldn't even say a balance, honestly, because it's a little harder to define, and maybe I just don't have the right words or enough information to explain myself in that regard like how I want to. But they more so value their space, but anxious people value that bond that they have from being in a relationship with that person. So what happens is oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. My apologies. Um, Avoidance also have a tendency of avoiding conflict or avoiding problems that may be presented in a relationship. So one of the other things is, like, let's say, even if it's not something big or not something serious, it could be as simple as uh, I don't know, maybe you're arguing over someone not washing the dishes. I wouldn't say argue, but let's say you get into a disagreement about someone not finishing up the dishes, right? You may be like, well, can I? Let me think of an example. Sorry, this might take me a couple seconds. So let's say dishes were supposed to be washed. When you know, when you got home. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say, for example, your girlfriend is home today. In this case, your girlfriend's the avoidant. Let's say the dishes were supposed to be washed or whatever. I'm not saying like you forced her or like you were arguing like, yeah, you better wash the dishes. Nothing like that. I'm just saying, let's say you guys both agreed on dishes not being in the sink past like a certain time, so then you guys can just chill and relax. Now keep in mind you guys have both had your fair share of stuff to deal with throughout the day. So stuff comes up. For some reason, she just wasn't able to get to the dishes today. Now, you, the anxious person, let's say you're coming back from work, you had a long day, people being annoying, or just dealing with rude or people who just aren't polite. So you're coming home with harboring all of those negative experiences because of the stuff that you've been through throughout the day, and you kind of already have like this pent up frustration and energy to you. So with that being said, you get home, unlock the door, You say, hey, blah blah blah. Say hello to your girlfriend, your wife, whatever the case may be. Um, you guys are chatting it up a little bit, but then you will make your way over to the kitchen. You see the dishes in the sink, and then you're talking to her, and you're like, hey, I thought the dishes were going to be cleaned. And she's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Some stuff came up, blah blah blah. Um, and you know, when you bring this up to her, she can tell you're a little agitated just off of your facial expressions and the way how you look, your demeanor overall. Now, she doesn't know that you had a long day. See, so that's this is like where the conflict kind of starts to arise. She wasn't able to get to the dishes because she had her own fair share of problems and things to tend to throughout the day. You are, just a little less, well, more than a little, but you're feeling a little impatient and inflexible because of the things that have led up throughout your day. So, now mind you, she just thinks that you're purely upset with her, but you're more so just upset with how the day went. But like I said, she doesn't know that. So you continue talking to her, and you're like, ah, da, da, da. Well, the dishes. Where we typically wash the dishes. Like, for example, like it's 7:06 p.m. for me. Like, let's say, the dishes are supposed to be done by I don't know, 6:30. Da da da. They're still sitting in the sink. Da. Mind you, this is like very stupid example. But it's just to get the essential point across. And she's like, well, I get that, but it's only 30 minutes past. Da 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 da. I've had a lot of stuff going on throughout my day. You know, and she's like, well, but you're kind of not. I mean, you're not yelling at her, but at the same time, you're also still frustrated, not necessarily hearing it all that much because of how your day went. Now, how can I put this? Because of that, it causes some problems, causes some tension. Now, you want to continue talking about it and talking about what you went through today and why you seem a little more irritable or seem a little bit more upset um, with her. But eventually, she gets to a point where she shuts down and she doesn't really want to hear it. And even though the shutting down part isn't a good thing, at the same time, well, mind you, I'm giving you an example where the anxious person is coming off a little agitated, and the reason why I'm giving you an example like that is because I definitely I've had a moment where, I don't know, I was just a little irritated about how stuff went throughout the day, and then I don't know, maybe there was a circumstance where I just got rubbed the wrong way by something my significant other told me, and I was just upset. Um, Now, after me initially being upset, I would try to communicate with them, but they would shut down on me because of they were upset with me being upset, and I would try to explain like, yeah, I'm not upset with you, but da 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 da, like this happened, and I'm sorry for this, but at that point they don't want to hear it. They would tell you to just drop it and leave it alone, but the reason why dropping it and leaving alone isn't a good thing is because when you sweep a problem under the rug, it causes a lot of resentment and a lot of built up tension. Um, and the other bad thing about it is that when something similar occurs again, uh, it tends to, what's the word? The energy from the past problem, since it hasn't been dispersed and dealt with, tends to remain there. It remains present. Now, it's like a seed that's sitting under soil, or a bud, I should say. Like whatever the plant is starting to sprout. Like a little bit of that green's emerging from the soil, but it hasn't fully emerged yet. So it's there, but let's say another problem comes up, or the same problem comes up again. You know, See, now that issue is getting watered because it's reoccurring. And what'll happen is because the same issue is happening again, and it's already happened the first time. Now, Now the energy from from it occurring the first time gets added on the second time, and you know, you may be upset that the issue is happening a second time, and you're bringing it up to her again because it happened a second time, but she's upset because you brought it up a second time, and but then you're like, oh well, I'm only bringing it up because you I'm only bringing it up because you what's it called? You did the same thing again, and it's one of those cases where it's like, let's say you have a landlord, you address a problem with the landlord says it'll get fixed, never gets fixed. You call the landlord, let him know. He's like, oh, my bad, my apologies, it'll get worked on tomorrow. You talk to him again, and it's like, well, blah blah blah. You talk to him again, but now he's irritated that you're calling him again about the problem. But it's like, hey man, I'm calling you because you told me you were going to fix it and you haven't. So you're frustrated with him for not fixing the problem. He's frustrated with you for calling him again. But the only reason why you're calling him again is because the problem wasn't fixed the first time. Now, this takes a lot of understanding and maturity to work through. Because I'm going to be 100% transparent, 100% honest. I definitely had my moments where I don't know if it rubbed off on me or what, but I would have my moments where I would get so upset that I would kind of just like power down and just shut down. And it's such a terrible thing to do. Never do that again, guys. People in general, just try your best not to do that. I promise you, it doesn't solve anything. It is a terrible, terrible way to deal with an issue between two people, whether it be friends, family, or whoever, or like even someone you love. It's never the answer. I used to have a habit of shutting down on my father too, especially when we would get into disagreements and I just stopped talking to him. But that wouldn't fix any problems, especially when you're dealing with someone like a parent or parental or a father figure. One thing I've realized, especially as a guy, is well, both you and your father have like this sense of pride almost, and it's like, oh, they made me mad, so I'm not gonna reach out to them or talk to them, and you as their son or you as the other person in the equation, like, oh well, I'm not gonna reach out to them because they were talking to me this way. But one of the things I've come to understand from both my mistakes and dealing with my father is that not talking to a person that you love because you're mad is the dumbest thing that you could possibly do. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. All it takes is a hey, I don't really like the way how we ended off on that last conversation, and I know we both may have made mistakes or did something wrong that the other person didn't like, but I want to come to let you know that I apologize for what I've done. And even if that other person doesn't apologize immediately, that is okay. That is fine. Point being is you've done your part on trying to do right and make up for what you've done. When they are ready, even if they aren't at that moment, when they are ready, they will come to you when they're ready to talk. But it's not worth it because when you don't talk things out, it causes so many problems that could easily be avoided. And then one of the things that I want you to be mindful of, and I really want you to think about, is the fact that when you what if that was the last time you ever spoke to that person? What if those were your last words? Imagine your last words being a I hate you or I can't stand you or um you know I like this one thing about you just ticks me off. Imagine that being like the last thing that you say to that person. Like imagine you getting into a disagreement with your girlfriend or your father, whatever scenario you want to put, whatever person you want to insert into that. But let's say you get into a argument with them, and either you never hear from them again because you stop talking, or they pass away. those were your last words to that person. That was it. Now, I don't know about you, but me personally, I don't think I would be able to live with that. I think it would eat away at me because I know how much I care about this person, but I let that anger and that pride and, you know, those negative emotions cloud my judgment on how I talk to and how I deal with this person. And because I can never speak to them again to let them know how I feel, I have to live with that for the rest of my life. No amount of anger. Now, there are exceptions, and even then, you still need to be careful with how you go about it. But no amount of anger should prevent you from mending things with a person you love. And when you are mad, it is very, very hard to keep that in mind. It's very difficult, it's very hard. But you absolutely have to do it. You absolutely have to. You really do. And that's why I was talking about, like, now, I mean, I could go on more, but this video is already like 46 minutes long, and I'm sure a lot of people have probably clicked off by this point. But one of the things I want to say, well, one of the last things I just want to say is, you know, even though I'm disappointed and I'm upset that that the relationship ended or that it failed, I don't know what the future holds, but as of now, it is done. Even though it ended, it's taught me a lot. I've learned a lot from it. And I think in life everything happens for a reason, whether it be good or bad, but everything serves a purpose. And I also believe that God doesn't put you through anything He doesn't think you can handle or anything He doesn't think you can learn from. So I just, even though I'm sad that it happened, I am grateful for what it had to teach me. I don't think, if it didn't happen, I don't think I would have learned as much as I have about myself if it weren't to happen. Um, it was a very, very, very valuable lesson. And, you know, it may seem bad, it may seem harsh, but you just have to thank God for all the trials that He puts you through. Because, like I said, they do serve a purpose. Um, I have much more growing as a person to do, but I've come to understand myself better. I've come to understand how other people work. I've I've gained a better understanding on relationships. Uh, I've worked with, and really, I even started journaling. Like, I would show you my notebook, but my handwriting is terrible. So let's not do that. Maybe if I typed it out on a document, we could go over some of it. But like I said, like I've been journaling, and I've really just been working through a lot of my, my doubts, my worries, insecurities. Uh, and I don't care what anyone tells you. Everyone has insecurities. Everyone does. We're all human. We all have emotions. We all have weak points, and those weak points tend to generate insecurities. Everyone has them. Now, those insecurities may be different from person to person, but we all have insecurities. And I've really had time to work on mine. Um, I've worked on managing my emotions, and I've been doing a lot better. Like before, I used to get very upset, uh, not with people I'm in a relationship with, but just with situations as a whole. Or like, for example, like I told you, like with my father, like sometimes we get into disagreements or arguments, and they would become very fiery, and we'd argue. But one thing I've come to work on is managing those emotions and, you know, trying to understand where my father is coming from when he's talking to me. And, realizing that even though he is upset, you know, yes, like he may be saying what he's saying to me, but why is he saying it? Trying to understand that. And trying my best not to hold my tongue. I still express myself, but to be respectful about as to how I go about it. Now, I don't give the same energy. And one of the examples I'll give you is like once I got into a disagreement with my father because I didn't want to go somewhere, and it irritated him. And he said, "Oh, you're effing selfish." Right now, in that moment, right then and there, I could feel it welling up. And when I say I could feel it welling up, I'm referring to how I felt internally, my emotions. I felt angry. And it wasn't because of him calling me selfish, but it was about how he said it. And with the tone that he said it with. That was really what bothered me. But I took some time, I sat there and I was thinking, and I was like, okay, why is my dad saying this to me? Okay, he's saying it because of this. Okay, now that I know that why he's saying it to me, is it understandable that he's upset about this? Yes, it's understandable. Is my dad speaking to me this way because he doesn't like me, or he's trying to hurt my feelings? No. Is he disappointed in my actions? Yes. Okay, so we're at this point now. I understand those things. Is giving him the same energy, or yelling back, or cussing back, going to solve the problem? No. Is it going to make it worse? Yes. So when you come to that conclusion, and when you understand that yelling and arguing and cussing back doesn't better the situation at all, you come to realize that the best thing you can do, especially if you're trying to de-escalate the situation and have it to where both sides are being heard, because when two people are yelling at each other, it's just chaos. There is no understanding, there is no listening, there is no processing, there is no, like I said, there is no understanding how the other person feels. You guys are both just lashing out at each other with your emotions. So the best thing you can do is to try to be understanding, and that's very hard when you're upset, and it takes a lot of self-control and a lot of discipline. But trying to be understanding and try to understand where the person is coming from and why they feel the way they do, and based off of that, do what you think is best for the situation, the best for conflict resolution. Um, I've come to understand that just lashing out because of the way how you feel is not the way how you go about things at all. Um, and for like I said, even though I'm glad that it ended, it's taught me a lot. I've even locked down a better job, thanks to my predicament. And when it comes to planning my future, I've thought about my future within the past 1 to 3 months more than I have in probably like the past year or two. So even though I am sad it ended, it has done a lot for my personal growth. Or even though I was sad, um, I still care about the person and I respect them, 100%. Um, I wish them the best. I don't, like I said, I don't know what the future holds, but you know, I'm very glad that I got to learn myself a bit more and understand myself a bit more. And I'll continue on improving my journey of understanding myself. I'm very, very happy with the progress that I've made for myself. Not just in the gym, but like I said, what's more important than having big muscles or, you know, making a lot of money is your mental health, is your mental well being. Because you can have money, you can have an amazing job, have an amazing car, have an amazing house, all of that. But guess what? If for some reason your mental health just collapses in on itself and you lose all ambition and all drive to live and to work, all of those material possessions vanish. The most important asset you have is your mind. Controlling that and doing your best to hone it and sharpen it like a tool that can be used for your benefit is the most important thing that you can do. Always take care of your mental health because everything else follows after that. Having a great body, having a six-figure salary, working an amazing job, or let's say you're self-employed, all that is cool, right? All those material things are like those material things are like a two-story house, right? The first layer of that house being, now mind you, you have the base, the foundation. The foundation is your mental health, okay? And then on the first floor, you have your physical health. And then the second floor, you have material things like your car, your house, your phone, how much money you make, things of that nature, right? Now, if your mental health is rickety, if the foundation is rickety, if it's not stable, then the foundation will break, it'll collapse, it'll cause a sinkhole, and then guess what? All of that stuff that you built on top of that rickety foundation collapses in too. So you lose all of that as well. That is why I'm trying to reinforce the importance of your mental health. Please, please, please take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. And listen, it truly is important to understand yourself. Because let me ask you this question. How can you come to understand someone else if you don't even understand yourself? It's like the same thing as people saying, how can you love someone else if you can't love yourself? How can you expect someone to respect you when you do not respect yourself? How? You can't. It's like the same thing as how when people say, how can you protect or provide for other people that you care about when you can't protect or provide for yourself? You can't even you don't even make enough. Well, let's use money as an example. You're not even making enough money to feed yourself. So how are you going to feed other people? If you can't take care of yourself, if you can't feed yourself, you go hungry, you end up dying. How can you take care of these other people? You're gone. If you're gone, you can't do anything for them. So you have to take care of you. Make sure that you are okay. Make sure that you are good. And I know this is a long video. If you manage to watch to the end, please comment. That's amazing. I know, nowadays you got a lot of flashy effects and things of that nature on YouTube now, but uh, I'm relatively new. Like I said, this is more of like a heart to heart talk, and I know I might have skipped around a little bit when it comes to talking to you about what I just have going through my mind. Um, I would also like you to understand that for me, this is kind of therapeutic in a way. I kind of feel like not only am I talking to you, but I'm talking to myself. Like it's like journaling, but using a video to mark where I'm at mentally versus putting something down in a book. You know? Um, I think it's important to find outlets to express yourself, whether that be through your hobbies, playing video games, going outside, journaling, um, painting, rollerblading, skating, whatever you do to listening to music, making music, whatever it is, whatever you do to express yourself, uh, it's important. Do what makes you happy. Be kind. Treat others with respect. And just do everything you can to better yourself and make yourself a better person day by day. It's been a while since I've posted a meaningful video on this channel. And as you may notice, there may have been some other videos on this channel, but I did end up deleting them. I'll put them back up though, 100%. But I think I am going to start making a lot more content like this because I really do enjoy it. And like I said, I love talking. As you can see, this video has gone on for about an hour. So, like I said, if you have managed to stay here to the end, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, thank you very much for listening in. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. And you can expect to see more content coming from this channel. But yeah, to summarize, personal growth is so important. It really is. Please take time to come to understand yourself and to better yourself. And if you can, one thing I really want you to take away from this video is try your best to learn from word of mouth rather than learning the hard way. Nobody's perfect, but at the end of the day, all you can do is your best. Um, but yeah, thank you for tuning in. If you like the video, feel free to leave a like or maybe even subscribe if you would like to. Uh, Plenty of more videos to come out that are like this. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I love y'all. And this is Jules signing out.